Chronic use and abuse of drugs may cause short-term and long-term effects on the brain that may lead to a form of mental illness. Some of these symptoms may include delusions, paranoia, hallucinations, among others. But there are situations where an underlying mental illness may cause one to use drugs. This self-medication may cause one to be addicted to some of these drugs. You may find a situation where somebody abuses alcohol because they are suffering from an anxiety disorder. You may find one using marijuana just to numb the pain due to depression. This is the focus of Health Digest, where we discuss the mental issues that underlie the use and abuse of drugs among users. Join me, Dr. Mercy Korir, as we talk to a patient who had depression but was abusing drugs and was eventually expelled from school. We talk to the caregivers who provide care and rehabilitate these people who have an underlying mental illness that has led them to self-medicate with drugs.
My name is John Karonji. Before coming here, I'd been working as a casual laborer. But prior to that, I was in the campus before I got expelled.
Mimi naitwa Ann Waweru na mimi ni former drug addict. Mimi ni peer educator, MDM na MAT clinic na niko na watoto wawili.
My name's Elizabeth Omyoi, working at the rehab situated at Mathare National Teaching and Referral Hospital.
John Karonji is 24, a former university student who was pursuing a bachelor's degree in business IT. He started using alcohol in 2010 at the age of 16. Ann Waweru is a mother of two who found herself deep in heroin addiction. Ann was lucky not to suffer any mental complication from being addicted to a drug. I met up with Ann at the Methadone Clinic in Mathare Hospital, where she was on rehabilitation. Just tell us about this rehabilitation center, because we know it's a rehabilitation center within Mathare National Teaching and Referral Hospital.
So this rehabilitation center was opened in the year 2003 after the government felt there was a need, because the public was suffering. They're using substances and most of them were being managed in the mental health units where they were mixed up with other patients who are not necessarily abusing drugs. And we felt there was a need to manage them separately so that the rehabilitation would be to its full capacity. Initially, when we started, we had a bed capacity of 35, but with the public demand, it was raised to 51. So currently, we are having 6 beds for the females, and the rest are for males.
I suffered from chronic alcoholism, and it had started making my life unmanageable. I was taking local brews, changa, and the quantity you can't tell but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Why changa?
Changa, because maybe the environment, friends were there, and it was affordable, and where I live, it's just like it's a stone throw away. It's not so far. Yeah.
Nilikuwa tu marafiki. Sasa hiyo nilikuwa 20 years. Nilikuwa tu marafiki, huenda wanatuambia ati hiyo ni ya kusiagwa Pakistan, sijui bangi ya Pakistan. Sasa hiyo kidogo kidogo kumbe ilikuwa heroin. Ndio sasa tukaanza kukuwa addict.
Alcoholism is a disease whereby you take alcohol in big quantities and on a daily basis. So, and then it leads to you not being able to accomplish other tasks. So yeah, I'm here to seek treatment.
The kind of approach here we use, this being a hospital-based, the routine activities of checking the health status of a person will have to continue because nurses are there, doctors are there to do those routines. But basically now, psychological activities, we have psychoeducation, spiritual therapy, we have occupational therapy, all those activities going on as per the timetable.
When I started taking alcohol, it was more of a social thing. That was back in 2010. But as time progressed, I discovered that I was not a social drinker, because I would go to alcohol even during the day, morning hours, on my way to school. So yeah, it started messing up my life.
Nilikuwa naweka kwa roster, na fionza roster naweka ndani. Alafu saa kuvuta.
Na ulitumia kwa muda gani?
Kwa muda miaka 15 hivi.
When people use the different substances, they are likely to develop complications that are either mental disorders related to the type of drug they are using, or they could be physical disorders, and other times it is the other way. It is the mental disorder that they have that will push them to using a certain type of a drug. So to elaborate on that, basically we have 3 major classes of drugs. We have what we call the stimulants, and we have what we call the depressants. Among the depressants, the socially accepted, the alcohol, is what mostly is abused, and 3/4 of the clients we have here are here because they have abused alcohol. We still have those who have used other substances along with the alcohol, like cigarettes, which are in the category of stimulants.
The types of drugs commonly used include stimulants like cocaine and amphetamines that temporarily increase alertness and energy. Depressants like alcohol that is socially accepted temporarily diminish the normal function of the brain and central nervous system. Opioids and tranquilizers are other examples. Hallucinogens like LSD alter perceptions, thoughts, and feelings.
So why I'm trying to briefly elaborate on this is because when you have used a stimulant which takes you high, then at the same time you are using a depressant which will take you down. Then it's like you are confusing the whole system, the brain system. Then we have the other type of drugs, we call them hallucinogens. And cannabis, which again is mostly abused in our country, falls in this category. From the experience we have, those people using cannabis, most of them end up showing those psychotic behaviors.
Life on drugs. What does it do to one's physical and mental well-being?
At first I was enjoying, but then I realized it was an issue because my life seemed to stagnate. But I didn't know that it was a condition. So one of the family doctors recommended that I be coming here for the outpatient clinic, the CSAT. But later on, one of my counselors recommended rehab in this facility. Yeah, so I came.
Ilinipa madhara juu hiyo si kitu watu wanaweza andika ugoje pesa ya mwisho wa mwezi. Hiyo inataka pesa ya haraka. Sasa ilikuwa inabidi tunaenda kama ni shop, kama ni supermarket, tunaenda tunafanya shoplifting, tunaiba vitu huko. Alafu tunauza ndio tunapata dawa za kuvuta. Sasa ilikuwa maisha ilikuwa tu hivyo ngumu. Kama nikukonda nilikonda sana. Mwili ikapungua vile kulingana na nikianza isikuwa hivyo. Juu hata mtu alikuwa ameshindwa kukula. Sasa alikuwa pengine vitu tamu kama soda, keki, vitu kama hizo ndio natumia sana.
This is my second time in rehab. I had been to rehab. So the difference here is that here they're giving medication. So the medication part helps you in reducing the urges and the mood stabilization. So I think the medical aspect is quite key, not just the other counseling kind of a thing.
I would like to pass this message that it is very important. Once you realize that you are using these substances that you go to a health facility where you can get a qualified person to make a general assessment, what we call holistic approach in the hospital. Because when assessments are going on, we are likely even to find the complications that you have developed along with your drug use that probably you are not even aware of. So our drug rehabilitation center, being hospital-based, most of the people who come here end up also benefiting from medical services other than the rehab service. Because what normally happens is they have to pass through our outpatient center, and when they are there, the doctor will ask for basic investigations. So several blood tests will be done, urine for toxicology, which has several chemicals that will be tested, enables us to know how to manage this person. So when the results are out, they may have to be sent somewhere before they reach the rehab, to the wards, where detoxification is done. Any other medical condition, either related to the drug use or just something that the doctor has found while trying to investigate whatever health issues this person could be having, are stabilized. I mean, the person is treated first. As he stabilizes, that is the time now they are referred now to the rehabilitation ward. Yeah.
Initially, I didn't know that it was a problem, but now that I came here, I've seen doctors and medical staff, and they've explained it. They say that I have a condition that is depression, so it's like I used to take alcohol to mask it. Yeah.
And did you know at the time that you had depression or that you are taking alcohol to mask something?
No, initially I didn't know. Yeah, until I was observed and diagnosed. That was never anything that crossed my mind, because I felt okay. But now that it was diagnosed and explained, I could pick up some things that I could experience.
Like what?
Well, majorly there were some mood swings. I could have different kind of moods. Had loss of appetite, sleepless nights, yeah, such.
How often in this rehabilitation center do you see people who had an underlying mental health disorder that led them into substance abuse, whatever substance it is? Maybe alcohol or it may be marijuana, as you had said. How often do you see this kind of situation?
In a given time, you find like when you are having like 5 clients who are, it's purely substance use, and probably the complications that came along with the use, you still get like 2, 3 that had a condition, a psychiatric disorder that pushed them to the drug use. And if I can give an example, you know, people don't just use drugs for the sake of it. There's always an underlying reason. I'll give you a scenario of a young boy who grows up in a family where there are disputes. So with these disputes, along the way there's family separation. They can't cope with that trauma. You know, trauma in itself is a mental disorder. So they grow up with this trauma. They do not know who to share with. Along the way, they get the peers who convince them, like, if you are in this kind of a horrible situation, just go get this kind of a drug and you'll be okay. And they get hooked up. So as we do our assessments from time to time, when we are trying to find out how did this person start using these drugs, then they are giving you this kind of a scenario, and you get to know this person really, was it not for this kind of a situation, then they would not have. Yes.
In Anne's and John's story, the society saw drug addicts, people who were sinking deep into what they see as bad habits. Many could not understand what was happening to them. John was branded an alcoholic.
At first, they didn't know what I was suffering from, so they took it like I was ignorant and a sort of a menace. But after coming for treatment and they were explained to, I think they have taken it quite well now. They are supportive because the medication is quite expensive and they're able to buy and come visit. So I can say they're okay.
To survive and be able to feed her addiction, Anne was living in the streets where nothing mattered more than how to get the next high.
Sasa hiyo nilikuwa nishatoka nyumbani, sasa naishi kwa maeneo mali drugs ziko. Sasa huko ndo tulikuwa na marafiki wangu huko. Maeneo ni mali ambao panauzwa madawa, mali yao waathiriwa wako wale wanatumia. Sasa ndio maeneo.
Due to his excessive alcohol use, John was expelled from university when he was at his second year of his bachelor's degree.
Well, it was as a result of a couple of things, but I remember we were late to enter into the gates, and I used to live inside the hostel, school hostel, so we were late and we were drunk, and we were in the company of ladies, so it was a couple of issues. Yeah, so we were called for the code of honor, and that was the verdict. I regretted the fact that I was expelled from campus, and I think that one led to an acceleration in my intake. And I felt out of place. There was trust issues at home. Yeah, so those are some of the causes.
There is a variation of the concerns. At times it is the employer who has sent a client because they have observed, for example, absenteeism of their place of work, deterioration of their activities, and it calls for a need.
What fears do people have when they bring people to rehab, or even the person coming to the rehabilitation center? What are their main fears?
The main fears we are observing from the wananchi is about really not being able to understand our rehab center, being that it is in a mental health institution. And I think traditionally nobody wants to be associated with anything to do with mental disorders. So we've come across people who really give you stories like the first time they were sent in this institution to come for services, they reach the gate there and they are like almost fainting. They cannot really believe this is where they are meant to come for services. But along the way, they learn that is not what it is. They learn there is much more than what they had heard outside there, and they really appreciate the services. Because along with what we have in the inpatient, we also have a weekly clinic. We call it CSAT, which stands for Clinic for Substance Abuse Treatment. And that is where we come across those relatives who brought their clients here, and they tell us their views about what they experienced the first time they were to come here.
Health Digest takes a break, and when we come back, we continue with this discussion where drug abuse is linked to mental health conditions.